vacation. But over there, they decided to attack the whole world. And the fascist far right from here gave him a plan of aggression first against migrants that are being persecuted, detained, disappeared. We have 238 migrants disappeared, kidnapped in the United States, and delivered to a concentration camp in El Salvador. And we are there doing all the legal actions. A, a law firm presented a habeas corpus before the justice in El Salvador. In the United States, migrant groups are also filing legal actions, but they are being persecuted. Wherever they are found, they are captured, humiliated, kidnapped. And I will continue defending, steadfast as I am, to rescue from the kidnapping and liberate all Venezuelans that are currently detained in the United States, and of course the boys and girls in El Salvador. We'll bring all those people back, and those that are in Mexico as well. Fortunately, we recently brought a plane with a lot of patience. We have built a strong airliner. They stole planes from us, but it's still strong. They won't be able to they won't be able to surpass us. They won't be able to overcome us. Because it's not just one man. It's not Maduro. It's a decisive people that choose to be free, rebellious, empowered, aware, loving, heroic, and Bolivarian. Now, all those young men and women, we will bring them back. We are a team, and we have a great team, and we are determined. All of them will return to their families because they're separating families and they're giving us only men. They're being separated. Over there in a city, they enter a home and they beat the boy, put him in handcuffs on his hands and feet, and they lower his head right before the eyes of his two minors and his wife. His pregnant wife, they put a chain on there, and she's not allowed to leave the home. And I demand the U.S. government respect for human rights of Venezuelan migrants, which are people of good values. And that girl, we are also going to rescue her. She's currently kidnapped in her home, and I'm determined on this. And I say this: how did this happen? How this all this migration happen? With the first sanctions, they hurt us a lot. And then came the campaigns on the internet, first on Twitter, then on Instagram, then on Facebook. Come, come and find the American dream. First was the Peruvian dream, and how many people did go to Peru and failed, and the Chilean dream, the same. The ruling class of Chile, the political class of Chile, hates Venezuela. They envy us because we liberated all of South America, including them, the Chileans. If not, they will still be a colony. Now, after all these tribes, the Peruvian, Ecuadorian, Chilean, the Coyotes, Lopez and Machado and Guaido, they began to earn body. I'm amazed, Elsie. You were there. Celia, you as well. You were there in the meeting. It was surprising because you know this, because some of your grandchildren also left, and some have returned, and the rest, they will all return. Sooner than later, we will have them all here. I always fulfill my word, and I'm determined to do it. I've spoken with the mothers of some of these young men, and I've spoken also with a lot of the ones that have returned. Here we have Mireles Caciques, the mother of Francisco Javier, who was kidnapped and is currently in El Salvador. He already has his lawyers. They have not allowed the lawyers to see them in that jail where they are being kidnapped. Not a single crime were committed in the United States. We were actually going to pick them up on Friday, but there was a storm in Texas, a sandstorm, and the flight was canceled. They canceled the plane. And then on Saturday, everything was here ready. The plane was on to go and pick them up. And then they say, no, you cannot come. There is a sandstorm. And then on Sunday, they were kidnapped and humiliated and beaten and tortured in El Salvador. Is that democracy? Is that justice? Is that respect for human rights? But it's surprising what I'm about to tell you. So you understand and you see how coyotes work. The criminal gangs of coyotes from Venezuela, they were being led by Carlos Vecchio in the States. Carlos Paparoni, you can write them down. Carlos Vecchio, Carlos Paparoni, Miguel Pizarro, David Smolansky, cream of the cream from the fascists. Also Leopoldo Lopez. Maria Corina Machado from here, from Venezuela. Julio Borges, among others. So they coordinated everything and they had a lot of power in the United States because all of a sudden, a man, Pedro, from a neighborhood in Petare, would pay, he would sell his motorcycle, his home, and he will pay all that money, and they will take him from Petare through Darien, and in 5 weeks he was in New York. Is that even possible without complicity from powers in the United States? They had a lot of power, and they still do. Why? Why the FBI, the CIA, why has the US power protected these coyotes that were involved with human trafficking and they became wealthy? Who did they benefit? A lady told us from Maracay, in a neighborhood, the young man paid $7,000 and in 5 weeks he was in Boston. If I had a map of the United States, I would explain to you so we could understand geographically the first thing, how to get there to Texas, and then from Texas they take you very comfortably all the way out to New York, to Boston, to Pennsylvania, to Philadelphia, Michigan, which are states that are in the northeast of the country, or in the center, Atlanta, Georgia, in Chicago. It was a grand operation to take people from Venezuela. But what is even worse still is that they get filthy wealthy with what they got from the migrants for a year or two. Migrants that came to be due to sanctions and blockade, what they save in Chile, Peru, and Ecuador and Colombia. It is calculated that from Chile, Peru, Ecuador, and Colombia, at least 500,000 migrants were taken from these 4 countries by the coyotes all the way to the US and they were all charged different tariffs from 5,000 to 7,000 to $10,000, and that's told by the people that have returned. And many of them tell that now is a great big business to come back from there, because most of them want to return to Venezuela. And coyotes are also charging them 5,000, 7,000, $10,000 to bring them back to Venezuela and illegally through the border from the U.S. border with Mexico. We would like that the U.S. government put aside the lies that it's telling. They say that there was a plan by our government to invade the United States, and that we invaded with the ill name Tren de Aragua gang. So that you understand, people from the States, the ban of the Tren de Aragua work in the interest of the opposition that you have supported here in Venezuela. Ivan Duque, the president of Colombia, took the criminal bans, including the ones from Venezuela and Tren de Aragua, back to Colombia, and from there it strengthened. Leopoldo Lopez led the relations personally with the Tren de Aragua, and the FBI has a lot of recording of this if they wanted to do the investigation. So don't let yourself be deceived, government of the United States. Stop repeating what is a clear lie and an insult to the human intelligence and to the intelligence of the people of the states. It's an insult to say that Venezuela created a plan to invade the United States. No, open your eyes. It was due to the sanctions and blockades that you put against our economy. And the migrants that are returning have returned on their own free will, because we have recovered Venezuela, and we will finish recovering it as a whole to reunify the Venezuelan family. All families will be reunited. We don't have to go abroad for anything. We have everything in here, and we're going to continue building, moving forward. We don't have to look for anything abroad. Well, unfortunately, due to the same economic situation, all of a sudden a friendship from the abroad tells them, well, here I have a car, I have the latest iPhone, and not only one, I have two, and I have an apartment, and I have a bike. And of course, a young man will get excited. How much do you earn over there? And then they will say 3,000, and then of course he would go. And you know what he found? Not an iPhone, nor two, nor a car, nor a bike. No, they found slave work all day. Free works at the same time, 7 days a week, without rest. But that boy and that girl and that family, they work honestly. That is why I completely reject, in the name of God Almighty and the Creator, I reject the lies that the Venezuelan migration are criminal or belong to the Tren de Aragua. And no, to migrate is not a crime. And our migrants are honest people, working people, honest. And we have to condemn this. Today there was a great rally here in Caracas in solidarity with the family members of the people kidnapped in El Salvador and the United States, in solidarity with our migrants. And in more than 100 cities in the world, there were rallies and acts of solidarity with Venezuela. So a wave of solidarity with our people begins to rise. And we are good. And if we are good at something, is to fight, and is to swim against the current, and is to win. I mean, the worst challenges, that's where we are at our best. We are warriors. And Elsie, I'm saying all this because firstly, I'm obliged to guide, to give an opinion, to raise the strength and conscience of our people and the people of the world, from Venezuela, from Caracas. But we have found our way. In the economic field, a new production model, self-sustained and diversified, to guarantee within Venezuela everything. I said this yesterday. In Guyana, I went to Expo Metal 2025. We have everything we need right here to continue on our way towards a solid economy. And that's in the economic aspect. But in the social aspect, Chavez gave us the greatest legacy, and it was the missions and the great missions. And following that legacy, we have founded the missions, the great missions of new generations. And I'm telling you, and I will tell you this very slowly before giving the floor to Delcy, with love, to all our people, youth, our workers,
a las mujeres,
women,
a los cultores,
farmers,
a los estudiantes, a los
students, teachers,
pero sobre todo hoy aquí,
but above all, here today, inaugurating this beautiful home, this historical facility, which will be preserved for the years to come. I tell you,
como me gusta decir,
as I like to say,
llueva, truene, o
whether it
relampaguee,
rains,
las grandes
thunder,
misiones y misiones
or lighting,
seguirán su paso de
the great
consolidación
missions will
para
continue
darle
their
la
path of
máxima
consolidation to
felicidad
bring
social al
about
pueblo,
the
la
greatest
máxima
social
seguridad social a
welfare, the
nuestro
greatest
pueblo,
social security for our
y los que
people,
están haciendo planes de hacerle
and those that are
daño
doing
al
plans
pueblo
to harm the
serán
people will be
derrotados
defeated
nuevamente.
again.
Los vamos a
We will
derrotar.
defeat them.
Bueno, presidente, estamos muy contentos de estar acá porque si alguien merece nuestro respeto.
Well, Mr. President, we are very happy to be here because if anyone deserves our respect and acknowledgement are the grandparents of the homeland, the ones that have been on the front line resisting the criminal blockade. And also, Mr. President, today it is the grandparents, the one defending their grandchildren who are kidnapped in El Salvador, being mistreated in the United States. And Mr. President, here in this beautiful home that we are inaugurating today, all this, President, I have to say this, every day the President was supervising what was going on, asking how the development was going, always trying to know what was going to happen with the grandparents. And I want to say this to Marco Rubio, a despicable man, him and Machado, because while you were planning how to bring well-being to our people despite challenges, they were thinking on how to harm Venezuela, how to attack Venezuela. And if someone has put a break to those savages, have been the grandparents of the homeland, which have told them we won't return to what was the Fourth Republic when our grandparents were sick and they were abandoned and water was thrown against them and tear gas when they came out to ask for their medicines. So I would say, Mr. President, that here we have a historic memory of what was a humiliation to our grandparents in the Fourth Republic, but it's also the hope of the homeland because they're the one pointing the way to our children, to their children, the grandchildren, and the strength that our grandparents have, I've not seen it anywhere. I've only seen it in them. That smile, that desire to dance and to fight Venezuela with the same enthusiasm with which they dance. And that's why it's very important to move forward in two aspects. The aspect of organizing social clubs for grandparents. We have over 1 million of grandparents, over 3 million grandparents registered from 60 years and above, meaning us. Celita, we have to organize our own social club. Let's see what she has to say. Let's give an applaud for the First Lady. Well, the first thing is to congratulate all the grandparents for this amazing home for grandparents. First, the location where it is located, a strategic place and a beautiful space. This is a spectacular, to tell the truth. We were going around and we saw all the different spaces. We saw that you have a dining room. We saw a place where the grandparents were watching a movie of Ali Primera and they were enjoying this. We also went by the hairdresser as the grandmothers were getting beautiful as it has to be, and also the grandfathers as well over there in the barber shop. So this is very spectacular. So this space, this strength that we receive here from the grandparents, there is no way to explain this. Anyone would say this with grandparents, the strength, well, the strength is the accumulated strength of love, what we are receiving here today. The accumulated energy of love, what we are receiving here today. And in regards to the comments on our migrants, we have to remember that many of those young men and women that migrate at that time, they were being deceived. It was a great con. First, they imposed sanctions to harm the families in Venezuela, the Venezuelan women, the grandparents. Those sanctions were straight to affect us. And they kept the campaign to offer dreams, and over there they would have everything, and they offer everything that they could imagine, as the president said, and many young men and women left deceived. But that was a great business. What those people did was business with our young men and women, and the most affected are the grandparents and the mothers who were here alone, fighting and struggling, that those people that left return at some point. So the business continued because then the coyotes charged for taking them away. Then Julio Borges made a campaign saying that all the migrants from Venezuela were criminals. They were the worst of the worst, a threat for the world. That's what they said, to try to, so that all that campaign affects the Bolivarian government, the revolutionary government, and all those good men and women that were there working will be impacted. So the business continued, and they charged them over there in the United States and in all the regions that they were, to bring them to a place where they were used as cannon fodder. Those young men and women were used as cannon fodder because then when they believed that their time has come, now came the campaign that they were all criminals, that they all belong to the Tren Aragua. All migrants belong to the Tren Aragua. They're all criminals. Around business to charge them and find a way to bring them out, and then also politically to create out a campaign, and they began to charge for this. In El Salvador, for every young man that they receive, they are paying. So it's a business. They are paying for these people. And what did the president of El Salvador said? That he needed the money, because with that money that he was going to receive for every man and woman that the U.S. government is paying, they would use it for their development. Slaving these young people and putting them to work is part of their development. So it's something really macabre what they have done with the issue of migration. That's why the president and the people united. We have to be more than ever united to achieve what the president is saying. All the people, all the migrants, all the families have to return to Venezuela, to continue working here in Venezuela and to make our homeland prosperous. And that's what has been decreed. They will all return and Venezuela will continue moving forward. And that's thanks to the strength of all of you, men and women, grandparents. With that strength, nothing can stop us, because those young people out there have the solidarity from us here, and the president is not alone, and you are not alone. We are united, and we will continue united for that objective. Mr. President, all our migrants will return. We could say a slogan that we have for fascism and imperialism. We have a slogan. they will
Pero
not
para
return.
nuestros muchachos y muchachas tenemos
Well,
otra.
for our young men
Ellos
and women,
sí volverán
they will
a su
return
patria amada. Los
to their
buscaremos.
beloved homeland. We will go
Es el único
look for
país del
them.
mundo que pone
It's the only
sus
place in
aviones
the
a
world
buscarlos,
that
con amor,
employs
con
our own
dignidad.
planes to go and pick them up with love and dignity.
Mira, y como estoy diciendo, son 4 vértices, Magali,
And
¿verdad?
we have been
Hay
saying
2 vértices
4
clave que
aspects.
trabajamos, los
There are
círculos
2
de abuelos
which
y
are vital, which like the
llegaron
social
a
clubs of the
58,000.
grandparents. If you already have 58,000,
El 8 de mayo se cumple el primer año.
on May 8th we celebrate the first anniversary.
Pedir que lleguen a 100,000 será mucho.
To ask for 100,000
A 2 millones de
will
abuelos
be
y
a lot.
abuelas.
To 2
Entonces, la
million
nueva meta,
grandparents.
vamos a 100,000 círculos de abuelos
So
y
the
abuelas.
new goal
2
is to go
millones
all the way to 100,000 social clubs for grandparents
hombres y
and 2
mujeres
billion men and women
de la edad feliz.
from
Hay que
the
inventar otro
best
nombre,
of
de la edad
ages, the
feliz.
happy,
Porque
this
nuestra edad
happy
es la edad
times,
feliz.
because this is our age, the happy age.
Esa es una meta.
That's
Y
the
la
goal.
otra meta tenemos que cumplirla
And the other goal that we have to
a parir-
fulfill
a parir
with all our efforts,
más todavía, porque yo propuse una casa de abuelos
because I propose
y abuelas
a
por
grandparent
municipio, son
center per municipality.
335.
So it's
A parir.
335. So it's
Atención,
time to work.
gobernadores,
So pay attention,
alcaldes,
governors,
alcaldesas.
mayors.
Estas son las prioridades.
These are the priorities.
Atención, círculos comunales, comunas.
Gr-
Para la
Pay
consulta que viene
attention,
ahora.
communal circuits for the
Pongan allí
consultations that come now.
Construcción de la casa del abuelo y la
Put there
abuela
as
del
well
circuito
the
comunal,
construction
¿verdad?
of the center for grandparents of that
Bueno.
communal circuit.
Aquí nos vamos entonces porque tenemos buenas noticias que nos llegan
So
del 23
we are
de enero.
going
Entre
because we
la
have
zona
good
E
news that
y la
coming
zona
all the
F en
way
la
from
calle
January
Bellavista,
23rd in
allá
the Bella
en
Vista
el
Street
antiguo
over there
Mercal,
in
tenemos
the
a Keila,
former
Miriam y Xiomara
the former
para
institution. We have
inaugurar de paquete la casa
we
de
have
abuelos y
these 2
abuelas
colleagues to
del
inaugurate
23 de enero.
the home of the grandparents
Adelante,
over there
Keila.
in January 23rd. Go ahead.
Feliz tarde, presidente. Bienvenido a nuestra parroquia combativa 23 de enero.
Good afternoon,
y a
Mr.
nuestra
President.
casa de los
Welcome
abuelos
to
de
our
la parroquia 23
to our
de enero.
parish
Para nosotros
here.
es un placer
For us,
y un
it's a
honor
pleasure and
poder
an
tener estos
honor
espacios
to
para
be able
que
to
nuestros
create these spaces so that our elderly can live their life and can develop